In this video, I'm going to teach you how to use a z-score table to find percentiles. So the way a z-score table is set up, if you give me a z-score, I can tell you what percentage of all data would be to the left of that particular z-score. Z-score always gives you percentages to the left, never to the right. So you're going to need a z-score chart that looks something like this, so make sure you have that handy. So here's how it works. If I have a z-score of 1.23, 1.23, you need to find that z-score down the left column of this chart. Christian, this would be a bad day to fall asleep, man. So notice one side of your paper has negative z-scores and the other side has positive z-scores. So make sure you're on the right side of the chart for the z-score that you're looking for. So 1.23, we need to be on the positive side of the z-score. So first you're going to find 1.2, and then we'll look for the 3 after that. So the 1.2, you see how I'm finding the 1.2 right here. Okay, so there's my 1.2. Now the 3 tells me what column I'm going to be in to the right of that. So this first column is the 0 column, and then it goes 1, 2, 3, etc. So 1.2 takes me here, but the 3 takes me over to this column right here. Okay, so that's the number that we're going to use. Now these are percentages. I mean, that decimal 0.8907. How could I look at that as a percentage? What would that be as a percent? 89.07%. So that tells us that 89.07% of all data is less than that particular z-score. Okay? In other words, this is at the 89.07th percentile. Okay, so that's basically how it works. So this table value, that's where we got this from. And this is the notation that we're going to use. So the percentage of all z-scores less than that z-score is da-da-da-da-da, what I just said. Okay, so that's it. That's how it works. Now, what if we want the percent to the right of a given z-score? We want to know what percent is higher than a particular value. So just understand you would have to subtract from 100 then. Okay? If 60% of data is below a certain number, obviously what percent is going to be above that number? Right, if 60% is below, then that leaves 40% to be above. You simply subtract from 100. So in this case, 89.07% of the data was below this z-score. If I wanted to know above, I would subtract that from 100, and that would be 10.93% would be above. So just let me emphasize this to you one more time. When you're looking at this chart, are these percentages above or below the value? Look at this little diagram to help you remember. That little diagram is there to remind you that these percentages are strictly below the z-score. So if I ask you for a percent that's below something, you can just read it right off of the chart. But if I ever ask you for what percent is above or greater than, you're going to have to subtract from 100 afterwards, after finding it on the chart. Okay, right, Christian? Sleepyhead? Okay, let's do some examples. So Christian, it'll help you stay awake if you write these down and do the calculations with me. If you participate, it'll help you stay awake. Plus, go to bed at 8 or something. Okay, so problem number 1. Find the percentage of data to the left of this z-score 2.65. Am I going to, Action Jackson, am I going to be able to read my percent right off the chart for this problem, or am I going to have to subtract from 100?
Subtract from 100.
No.
Why?
Because, okay, here's what you have to memorize. See the shading on this picture? This shading is here to remind us that the chart tells us values to the left. Okay, these are all left numbers. So if I ask you for a number to the left, I can just read it right off the chart. I only have to subtract from 100 if I ask you for a value that's to the right of this z-score or greater than the z-score. Okay? So we should be able to read this one right off the chart. So here we go, 2.65. So I go to my chart and I start at 2.6. So I see my 2.6 is right, my 2.6 is right here. And then the 5 tells me what column to go over to. I know that first column is going to be 0, right? So I can't see the top of my screen right here, but I don't need it because I know it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this should be the value that I need. So that's, what would that be, of course, as a percent? 99.60%. 99.6%. And again, I don't need to subtract from 100 because I want the values to the left, and that's what the chart gives me. So the percentage of data to the left is 99.6% of the data is to the left of that z-score. Okay? Find the percentage of data to the right of this z-score. Okay? Action Jackson. Am I going to have to, can I read this percentage right off the chart when I find it, or do I need to subtract from 100? This time I'm going to have to subtract from 100. If you want values to the right or greater than, that's when you have to subtract from 100. So let's find it. So negative 1.72. So I'm going to find negative 1.72 on my chart. It's on the other side of the page this time. I start at negative 1.7, which is right here. Whoops. Okay, there it is. There's my negative 1.7. The 2 tells me at which column to look. So this is column 0, 1, 2. So this is the percentage at which we should be looking. Okay? So what is that as a percent? 4.27%. Christian, strike one. Keep your eyes open. 4.27%. Now, like we said, what do I have to do with that value? I'm going to have to subtract from 100. Now, on the last problem, see how it says write your symbols first? I forgot to write my symbols for the last problem. Let's go back and put it in. On the last problem, the percentage of data to the left of this z-score. So the symbols for that would be this. The percentage of values less than 2.65 equals. Those are the symbols that I'm talking about, the notation. So this time let's do it properly. So the percentage of z-scores, so to the right, so I'm going to say greater than negative 1.72 is going to equal, and so I'm going to have to subtract from 100. So 100% minus, what did you say it was, 4 point what now? 3.7? Yeah. Okay, so do that. And then that's going to be, so what is that? 95.73%. Okay, that's how you do that. All right, I'm going to pause the video here. Do number 3. Put your answer on your board. All right, everybody got 44.43% on that one. Okay, last one. Put your answer number 4 on your board. On number 3, for a second there, I forgot to write down the symbols. So there it is. This one, notice, less than, we did not have to subtract from 100. But greater than, we will have to subtract from 100. Okay, so just keep that. As soon as you see greater than for number 4, you know you're going to have to subtract from 100. So the percentage of z-scores that are greater than or above 3.3 equals. Now you know we're going to have to do 100 minus something, so you might as well get that started immediately. Now in your mind, remember that z-score tells you how many standard deviations you are above or below the mean. Standard deviations are huge jumps. So here we are more than 3 standard deviations above the mean. There should be very, 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 very little data greater than that. So this should wind up being a really, really, really small number. Very few scores can beat a z-score that high. That's a super high z-score. Anyway, 3.3. So we're on the chart, looking for the 3.3. It's almost to the end of the very chart. So here's 3.3 right here. And then what was it now? Okay. Oh, it's 3.3 with no extra decimals on it. So that means 3.30. Okay? So that means this very first column is the column at which we should be looking. That's 99.95%. So we're subtracting from 100 though. So 100 minus 99.95%. And that should equal 0.05%, a really, really small number. And that's it.